Hello friends, how are you today? Well, I'm recording this late at night. I know that some of you are wondering, where is my video on what happened after the missing data? And here it is. I needed to just think about this before I put it together, and I needed to consult with my friend who has a biology background, and she helped me with a key aspect of this interpretation. So when I saw these lines across the chart vertically, when the data was finally released, the word that came to me was striations, repeating striations. Now, I'm going to explain what my interpretation of these striations. But first, if you could please share this video, if it resonates with you, I really appreciate it. It really makes an impact when you guys share my videos, and I thank you very much for doing that. Also, if you could like the video and subscribe, that would be absolutely wonderful. The next thing is that I'm still having my Crystal Fair celebration. I'll put the link below, but I'm doing sessions at my usual fair rates for this week, since I did not go to the actual Crystal Fair for reasons that are in my newsletter. So if you are a newsletter member, or if you join the newsletter and then email me, then you get to have these rates. And so I have met quite a few of you, and we had some amazing sessions, and I've some more scheduled, and I'm just really, it's just been really joyful, and I'm full of gratitude over this experience with you guys. So now I'm like, I should do this again, or I wish I had done this before, but no, here we are in the moment doing this together. So yeah. Whew. Okay, so we have these striations, and I want to talk about those, but first, let's take a look at the information behind the chart. And these are the frequencies, amplitudes, and qualities. Now, I spoke quite a bit about this before the data stopped. So if you haven't seen those videos, they are very additive. The JERICHO effect, PLUTO and JERICHO, and then, what was the third one after that? The third one after that too. So what I wanted to say was, the thing that is the case about these frequency ranges here is especially when the data first came out, but they are in a narrow band, okay? And the thing is that it's kind of hard with just a smaller subset of data to really take a look and make any conclusions off of this, because there were certain patterns happening. Like, for example, here, see, at 9.88, you still have a straight line there, but now it looks so big. Why is that? Because all the rest of the bottom of the frequency range here is missing. Okay, that prior to the missing data was, that the frequency was kind of dipping down into that range. So we only have like a day and a half or less of data here. Because I just got the chart at this time, but there's really not much on the chart over here, so I didn't put it in. But so that's what I'm saying. Now, coming off of this new data, the frequencies of the red did go to like a high end of the range, okay? But there's not much that we can discern besides just saying that the green was in a narrow range still, just a few pops up, and this looks a lot like the range it was in before the no data. I don't know what to say about the yellow here, but anyway, the white was in a lower range, but now it started to expand again into the 8s. So basically, that's a key thing I wanted to show you here, that the red is still flattish at about the same frequency level. The amplitudes, which is the strength of the energy, has been relatively low, because you got 7, 9. It looks like big peaks here, but you have to look at the key on the side. Green is only at 5.5, and yellow was the strongest on this chart with a peak of 17 here. Okay, but that's still pretty light in terms of amplitudes. I mean, 17 is a good number. It's very light in the other colors, especially in green. So that's just interesting that the powers really come off of these. And then in the qualities, the one interesting thing that we can say here is that red has continued to peak into the 20s. Now, it was peaking at 22, 23, but now we've gone up to 25, which I believe it had been at before. But check this out. Since the data's returned through the 12th, it looks like, generally through the 12th, the quality, look at this. It's been at this extended high range for like over 24 hours. Now that is unusual, okay? Very unusual. It kind of fits with what we're going to talk about in the chart right now. I've got to tell you something. I have had situations that have made me ridiculously angry over the past few days, especially at the end of last week in the no data, and when we were in the no data range. And today, finally, I got some relief and I was able to recenter because I was having difficulty, getting to 0 point. I was having difficulty staying out of duality and being in that centered place, in living my daily life, because the anger over these injustices that happened was really distracting me. And finally, I was able to peel that off and let it go, let go of what was old that had been triggered, and really just sit with, okay, this is the anger that I have in the present moment, feel that, and then say, I'm done. I'm done. I don't need to keep being angry about this. I can let it go. And that took a lot of really placing conscious attention on the process, and then just asking for days, asking the divine to guide me and to assist me in coming back to a centered place. And I do associate, it doesn't surprise me that the red has been really high in terms of quality. Now, quality is kind of like the clearness of the resonance relative to its own natural, true source frequency. Okay, so with the least amount of distortion, the higher quality that you get. That's how I, in layman's terms, explain this. Okay, so 25 for hours is pretty dang high for a long time, relatively speaking. Okay, but for our purposes, that's the case. Now, it's interesting because we had these, and these continued, they continued in storms and disturbances for like the whole day here on the 12th, but that kind of goes along with a stirred up red, which I view as, shadow side of the personality, anger, passion, but also the dark forces on earth that operate through human beings. And so when the geomagnetics are high like this, how I view it is it's rubbing like sandpaper across our field, and it's presenting a frequency that says, hey, is any of this in your field? Because if so, you could act on it, you could find what's old and release it. You could get agitated in the present moment. You could get passionate. So that's how I see this, that the sun's energy hits our earth atmosphere, and similar to us in our energy field emulating what happens here, that it kind of hits our energy field. And a lot of people get headaches when this happens. But for me, it was anger. But anyway, now what's interesting is there was not a correlation, really, between all those geomagnetic storms and the chart. In fact, it kind of looks like the chart got cleared of energies a little bit. And there's one more important dynamic here I'm going to talk about next. But what I've been thinking about this, today about why is this? And what I was thinking about is that the Schumann is an electromagnetic frequency, okay? And that the geomagnetics of the sun with our atmosphere, those are more magnetic energies. And so I'm wondering if there's kind of a nature, right, between magnetism and electricity where for some reason something that's highly magnetized doesn't affect our field as much or helps clear it. I don't know. Okay, this is just something I'm just wondering about today. I don't have any conclusions, but it's just what I was thinking about because sometimes there is a correlation. But today it looks like it's correlated with the chart turning more blue. Excuse me. Now, the other important thing I wanted to say was we can say, what are the clues as to what happened when the data was gone? And I've talked before about the fact that because the Schumann resonances are very low, extremely low frequencies, that they can go around the Earth, right? I said it recently in the U.S. Navy document I was reading that that extremely low frequencies can go around the Earth like 3 times. So what we could say is that whatever happened here, right, that it would have repeated and repeated and repeated, would have gone around the Earth 3 times, right? So we could say, see these interesting lines. This is not the technological effect. No, okay? It's not. Why? Because this is not what the technological effect looks like. This looks like do, 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 do. And then same as these. And then this is not the technological effect either. It doesn't look anything like what the technological effect looks like. Okay, these striations here. And then as we go up into the lower hertz, they get darker. Okay, so they're more filled with, the colors look almost black, or they're filled with all of this, this dark material. So what I think is that it's possible that these striations here are like a repeat, right, of what had happened before, like an echo, because the amplitudes are low. Okay, the amplitudes are low here. And you can see the mini spikes here, okay, with these striations. But if you're going around the Earth like 3 times and you're on the 3rd time or even the 4th time, you'd be running out of energy. Right? And so it makes sense that the amplitudes are low. We're getting these little spiky striations, and this is just kind of a runoff of the energy, whatever the heck happened, back here. Okay? And the thing that kind of correlates this, and I appreciate the person who pinged me on Twitter, Ash, and mentioned the Italian charts. I did look at the Italian charts, and they were full of these striations, okay? Now, I don't know if that's normal for them because I don't look at it all the time, but it kind of looked like maybe it wasn't normal. I don't know. So anyway, they're on this chart that I look at all the time, and I guess that's the key point. But it was interesting to just take a look. And I'm not going to start talking about the Italian charts because I'm just going to talk about these ones and stick with the Russian charts here from Space Observing System. But I did think that it was interesting that that was on there. Now, what is this? Okay. The first thing I want to say, I just want to say this out loud. I do not think this is from CERN. We looked at that today. I looked at that, and I looked at like their schedule of events and stuff. They have a conference. They had a conference for part of the time when the data was missing, but I don't think that's what this is. I think it's something else, something more natural, actually. And actually, the energies look natural if you kind of look at this. Now, there is one thing that doesn't look natural, and then I'm going to move on to interpretation, and that is this. Okay, what is this? There's nothing in the frequencies, amplitudes, or qualities that would lead me to think, oh, that made this image. No. And in fact, it looks like numbers. And it was funny because I figured out what numbers I thought it looked like. And I talked to my friend Alex, and she said the same numbers. But it looks to me like a 23 over a 53 here. And let me show you. I did take a little look at this. I used some different colors. And this to me here, actually it comes out better here. This looked like a T and then like a P. Okay, so there's a T and a P and a 23 and a 53. So that was interesting because that did not look natural. That looked like an insertion to me. Like this was a transmission of some sort. That's what it looked like. So I just put that up there because it kind of stood out for me. Okay, now. Okay, so here's what I wanted to say. Before I get into the interpretation, what I want to say is this. What I have to say is like not necessarily it's not a positive interpretation, but it's an interpretation just of what I see. I don't try and spin my interpretations positive or negative or anything. I'm just saying that the information to me was like, holy cow, like, wow. Like, it reminded me of that famous post, I think it was on 4chan, that went like this: if you only knew how bad it really is. Okay, that's what it reminded me of after really taking a look at what I saw here. But what I want to say is this, okay, that even though I want to share this with you because for me it's a truth, and I want to share the information with you, but I also want to say that God doesn't give us anything, in my view, and it's not just my view, it's a view of a lot of people, but God doesn't give us anything that we can't handle, okay, and that we with the support of the divine, we can find our way out of what is happening, that God wins. And at the end of the video, after I do the interpretation, I want to talk to you about some things that have been occurring to me as possible solutions. And here's the thing, what I'm presenting, both pointing out what I see and then possible solutions. And now I'm getting all these dings. Okay, so sorry I didn't turn that off. But what I want to say is that you're going to need to do your own research because I'm not really spelling it out here because for obvious reasons. But I think that it's also important for you to do your own research, and maybe you'll even see what I'm saying. And if you do your own research and you see what I'm saying and you write your own article or do your own video about this concept that I'm going to talk about with the mitochondria, then I encourage you to do that because people need to know what's going on. So this is what I'm looking at now. This is the here, I'll just put this here for a sec. Okay, so we're looking at the chart like this, okay, on its side. So I turned it so that we could really take a look at the striations because this is how I looked at them. Okay, and all right, now the interesting thing when I was looking at the striations, at first we were looking at this going, is this Morse code and can I interpret it? And then the other thing that we were looking at the, how repeating were the patterns, because it seemed like there were repeating patterns in here too. And it looked like, it looked like this line here was really, really similar to this line, okay? And that these two lines were really, really similar in their patterns that they're expressing, okay? Now there's little tiny differences, like here, there's this little tiny, there's a square, but then there's a square that's starting to move off. And then in this bottom one, in this bottom striation, it kind of drops all the way off and it's down here, okay? But as we were, as Alex and I were looking at this, and I was saying, I think that this is about striations, and the way that striations are caused, like there's something called glacial striations, where a glacier rubs up against material and it leaves these streaky lines, okay? And I was thinking, like, I think there's information in these striations. It's just like the crystals that you see, like the clear quartz crystals, and in my view, a lot of these are from Atlantis, some of them are from Lemuria. They go back that far, and in my view, they are technological. The striations are part of an ancient technology that we haven't learned to read yet. This is what I think, and I've heard this told to me. I can't remember who told it to me, but so I do feel that is the case, that these striations contain information in these crystals. And so I was thinking, I wonder if there's information in these striations on the Schumann for us. Okay, and then there's also these up here, but these kind of start to get, well, actually, they start to get more happy, actually. They still have this shadow here. But anyway, let me get back to these, because this is what I really want to show you now. Okay, now, here's the other type of striation that exists. The other type of striation is muscular, and this is fascinating. I'm going to show you something. Okay, so this is a mitochondrion. Okay, let me just move this here because this is Wikipedia. Okay, so there's your mitochondrion. And I have actually talked about this before in another video. Here's your mitochondrion. And notice that oh my goodness, something big just happened on the floor. Okay, so here's your simplified structure of a mitochondrion. Now, this is what I want to show you. This is a striated muscle tissue. Okay, so here's your wiki image. This is a myofibril, which is just like the fibers of the muscle, and then all these little fibers come together to make the muscle. So this is what we're going to look at here. And now this is thanks to Alex explaining this to me, and then we look through it. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's your muscle, here's your little myofibrils, and together they make up the muscle. And along these and within all these myofibrils, you have these mitochondria here. And what the mitochondria does is it takes food with, by the way, glutathione helps this process. And it takes your food, and somehow glutathione is involved. I'm not a scientist, but you guys can, as you're researching this, you can put it all together. And then it makes ATP, and then it feeds the muscles. And that's how the muscles get energy. Okay, that's how our food is translated into energy, so that the muscles can move, okay? And even so that we can be a large organism, okay? And the fact of the matter is that there were not large organisms on Earth at the beginning. At the beginning of creation, there were only like single-celled organisms. And it wasn't until we had the positive alien invasion of mitochondria. Okay, and so what Alex has explained to me is that mitochondria are not like innate to the human form. They came from somewhere else. So you're welcome to research this as well. And the addition to Earth and the Earth ecosystem, and specifically the organisms on Earth, to the addition of mitochondria, is what allowed larger organisms to be created. So organisms like eventually human beings. Okay, we exist because of this itty bitty teeny tiny thing. That's what allowed the one-celled organism to either be created into a complex organism like the human in the human body, or evolved into, pick your choice, okay? Because I'm good with both of those. Okay, so now I want you to look at this. This is a diagram of the structure of a myofibril. Okay, so it kind of looks like Morse code. It has to do with the contracting of the muscles and the releasing of the muscles. Okay, so here's your relaxed muscle. Here's your, see how here it's here, right in here, it's closer together. Here it's further apart. So basically, as your human body is just really, it's even just as you're sitting, right? Your heart's beating, blood's going through the capillaries, like your whole body is still working. And so all these little small muscles are always working and moving. And this is kind of a side shot of this, all right? And how scientists diagram it. And guess what that looks like? That looks like this, okay? And then suddenly we got it, okay? And let me explain to you something about the Schumann resonance. This Schumann resonance here is in a spectrum of 0 to 40 hertz. 0 to 40 hertz emulates the human brain waves, but it's more than that. There are 7 billion, over 7 billion of us human beings emitting an EM field from the heart, and from the rest of the body, but it's really from the heart is the powerful field, the most powerful field in the body. I go into more in my beginner playlist, but these are the two key things I want to emphasize. So there's over 7 billion of us emitting brain waves and emitting an EM field in addition to that. Now, if you've ever studied spiritual communication through the body, and it's called like sacred body language, there's this concept that information coming from the divine to you, it's easy to be distorted when we attempt to interpret divinity through our human self, that there's a propensity for distortion in interpretation. Why is that? It depends on our emotional state. It depends on our mental state, the way that we view the world. And so the information, divinity, like the truth that comes through us, and then it has to go through these lenses of interpretation. And that's one reason why I talk so much about clearing the energy field and how to remove interference and how to reset your energy parameters, because the more that we can clearly sense the message of the divine coming through our own heart and soul, the closer we can be to God, essentially, in our life. Like, what would Jesus do? Well, I'll just check in within and see what the message is. But it's easier for me, like I just said earlier, when I was just like super angry, okay, like on Friday. And it was just really hard to get to a space of 0 point, okay, like I wasn't there. And it took a while of real consciousness to clear that anger, to stop generating it, okay? And now it's not that I don't generate it, it's just that it's not like up on the blackboard right in front of me shouting at me anymore. And I'm in acceptance over certain things that have gone on, and even in gratitude. Okay, so back to what I want to say here. Here's the thing. So one of the ways that we confirm spiritual insights, and that I confirm spiritual insights, is to see what my body is saying. Because when you check in from a body perspective, then it doesn't go through your emotions. It doesn't go through your thoughts. It's much more subtle than that, the translation of the body. And in a way, it's my view that it's much more pure, because there's not the temptation to put emotion into it and then interpret, or to put my own thought patterns into it and then interpret, right? So through the body, it's much more clear. And so when I receive spiritual information for myself and I check in, I always confirm with my body's message to me, with the divine through the sacred communication that can come through the physical body. And everybody has different ways of doing this. It could be, something goes on with your fingers. It could be something with your eyes or your toes or a twitch or whatever it happens to be for you. Okay, because people seem to naturally have these things when they get this intuition. Now, another way to experience it is, how does it feel when you assess it from a heart? Does your heart open up? Do you feel joy? Does it open up in joy? Or does it constrict? Does the center of the body constrict? That's a really good way, if you haven't determined another way for yourself to assess these things. So we could, in a way, think about this information from the Schumann as being a pure body communication. Okay. Now there are brain waves, but there's also the EM fields, which is generated by the heart. Okay, and generated, in my view, at a lower level, but also from the body, from each of our cells, okay, of which there are many. And so I think that there's a message here that our physicality, our human system is presenting to us, our human consciousness and awareness of the body is presenting to us. Okay? And let me show you what I think that is. Now, this is a quote from Alex, okay? Because I had to have her, I had to write it down because it's important. At the dawn of creation of all organisms, including the human race, our cells were invaded by mitochondria, which allowed cells to process energy in a different fashion and allowed for larger multi-celled organisms. This was the shift from single-celled life to larger, more complex biological systems on this planet, and including the human body and system. Now, how would you disable large multi-celled organisms, making them no longer supported as life on this planet? Meaning, how do you create an environment that no longer supports human life? You attack the mitochondria. Human life itself cannot function without healthy mitochondria. Human life cannot function without healthy mitochondria. And this is what I am asking you to research for yourselves. It's that big, and this is what we are facing. This is what we are facing in our environment right now. My friends, it is this important and this urgent that we wake up to what is happening and what is actually going on with certain medical processes. For goodness sakes. Well, there it is. Here's what I have to say to you. Despite the direness of our situation, I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. The first is that you have to be able to see something before you can address it. And the second is, if you can program something and put it in the human body, and that thing you've programmed can assess each individual human body at a cellular and DNA level, and then attack where that specific human body is weakest. If you have the technology to do that, because that's pretty darn advanced, like AI type technology, but with a very specific purpose, right? My friends, if you can do that, then I assert to you that we somehow, somewhere, could take that same technology and reprogram it to assess the weaknesses in those same cells and DNA and heal them. And heal them. And there's something else here as well. As we come to understand the parasitic influence attacking us, which is both physical and non-physical, as we learn how to work with energy, our own energy, and claim back what is ours, the space of our human body and our human energy field. And as we learn how to eliminate the physical parasites within the body, I see a world on the horizon where humans have a natural state of being healthy. How we get from here to there, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, as an intuitive, it feels real and intangible. At the same time, it's coming. That's what I feel. We will get through this. God is on our side. I feel that these tests, these challenges, these harsh truths, personally, I feel they're meant to turn us to God, because the divine is what will get us through. That's my firm assertion and belief. And I can only say that because the divine is what has turned my own life around and caused miracles that I would never have imagined, that were beyond my imagination. And yet, all things are possible when we align with that divinity that is the truth of who we are. The human resonance. It's all about the vibe.